Elon Musk will indirectly trigger a $1 million Bitcoin price. There's something that Tesla has said, as well as Nvidia, that we need to look at, which could lead to the Bitcoin price rising much more in the future than most people here can imagine. This whole thing is related to AI robotics, technological advancement, and also Elon Musk. But before we dive into that, let's take a look at Fred Krueger's $1 million roadmap, because he's now outlining the exact path he believes Bitcoin will take to reach $1 million. And it's not a FOMO scenario, for example, because he's now laying out the exact path that, in his view, Bitcoin will take to reach $1 million. And this is not a FOMO scenario, E.G. Like Samsung Mao, who says E.G. Next year, Bitcoin won't rise to 1 million. Instead, he's looking more at 2029 to 2030 for Bitcoin to hit that $1 million mark. We look at his reasons, which are highly explosive and again have to do with what Elon Musk said here and why AI robotics, SOS/EOS, and technological progress will become very, very important for Bitcoin. Fred Krueger is a mathematician and Bitcoin analyst, and I've talked about him a few times before. He's now given a really exciting assessment. He outlines the steps needed to reach the $1 million Bitcoin price. He says, first of all, a new administration, a kind of strategic Bitcoin reserve for Bitcoin. The new chairman of the SEC, MicroStrategy, is putting $10 billion into convertible bonds, aiming for 1,000 Bitcoin by the end of the first quarter. So these are clearly the conditions. He's setting for the Bitcoin price in the first quarter of 2025. That would probably be February, March, April, something along those lines. So we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Donald Trump is going all in on Bitcoin, and we've got the whole Trump team backing Bitcoin, along with the SEC and the Treasury Secretary, who are all pretty much massively in favor of Bitcoin. Then we have MicroStrategy, which will continue to buy Bitcoin, issue new, let's say, convertible bonds, raise new capital, and go even deeper into Bitcoin. And that's why he sees a US dollar Bitcoin price here in Q, which sounds pretty good. Then he has the second reason. Largest ETF launch in 2025, inflows will reach over $100 billion. This means that the inflows for Bitcoin ETFs next year will be even higher than this year, which means the ETFs are really going to explode. Then we have states announcing reserve funds, which means that new states are coming here, which may also create a strategic Bitcoin reserve here, and if not, then at least reserve funds here. And then he also mentioned that at least one of the Magnificent Seven will buy some Bitcoin, like for example, the Magnificent Seven like Apple, Tesla, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and so on, at least one of them will buy some Bitcoin, which will trigger another upward cascade. 21. Then he goes on to say that there will be more advisors pitching Bitcoin to asset managers and so on. And that's why Bitcoin will rise to US dollars by the end of 2025. This is really massive. Fred Krueger sees a supercycle. He predicts 7 years without major corrections like 20 to 30%. Bitcoin is expected to hit 1 million soon. This means that we now have 7 years ahead of us where we will not have any drastic corrections such as 20%, because something similar happened after the introduction of the gold ETF. And then we have the third point he mentions about why Bitcoin will soon rise to 1 million. He sets the target for 2029, aiming to reach 1 million by then. On the way there, IBIT will overtake SPY as the top ETF, meaning the SPY is currently the ETF with the most assets under management. And the BlackRock ETF will be even stronger than the SPY. Won't be there until 2029. MicroStrategy will reach $1 trillion market cap. The power law applies and the 4-year cycle is ended. MicroStrategy is reaching a market cap of $1 trillion, which is crazy. Just a few months ago, Bitcoin itself had a market cap of $1 trillion, and MicroStrategy will be worth as much as Bitcoin was at the beginning of 2024. And then he says here, the power law still applies, the 4-year cycle is ending. Whoever has persevered has done a very good job. And that's what I meant by the supercycle, that we're entering a supercycle where we might only see maximum pullbacks of 20 or 30%. From 2021 to 2029, and then the supercycle will be over and will be at $1 million US dollars. So it sounds really bullish, but you always have to be a bit critical because, it's a prediction and no one really knows how the future will play out. But the reasons given are definitely very valid. Whether the exact date and the specific Bitcoin price will actually hit the mark is still up in the air, but the reasons given are definitely interesting. And now we need to talk about Elon Musk and why he could also lead us to hit 1 million sooner than many people expect. So those were some very obvious reasons, but there are also indirect reasons and other factors, like for example, Elon Musk and Nvidia can indirectly pump Bitcoin up massively. Not by actively buying Bitcoin themselves or by Nvidia or Tesla or Elon Musk buying Bitcoin, but by people like, for example, Elon Musk or Nvidia can significantly contribute to technological developments and advancements. A lot of people say that robotics, AI, and Bitcoin are the most incredible developments you can possibly imagine. What's going to happen in the next 5 years is going to be as much as we've seen in the last 30 or 50 years, because we're entering an exponential period where we really have massively disruptive technologies. And one of those is Bitcoin, another is robotics, and another is AI. And just a few days ago, Tesla said something really interesting about this. Probably thinking. And now some of you might be thinking, okay, Robotaxi, what do I want with something like that? And I don't even know if I should think that's a good thing or not. The whole AI story also has to be viewed critically, the robotic story and so on. Progress is coming and we might have robot access. Transportation costs will likely drop significantly. Innovation and AI will enhance efficiency. And if we have something like that, it also means that transportation costs are likely going to drop significantly, because suddenly it becomes much cheaper to cover your living expenses. Thanks to innovation, efficiency, technological advancements, robotics, automation, and AI automation, the whole transportation system is going to become way more effective and efficient, and as a result, prices will fall. So you won't have to pay maybe €1,000 a year for your car anymore. Instead, you might only pay like 5,000 or something like that. And this is just one example. There are tons of examples like how timber harvesting could become more efficient or how it might get easier to tear down a house. This means that building your house will become cheaper. For example, timber harvesting could become more efficient or how it might get easier to tear down a house. That means your house will be cheaper to build. Wood is going to be easier to harvest, which means the cost of wood will go down. And that means the overall cost of living, your standard of living, will drop significantly. And that's why it's even more important to have limited goods, because we're heading into a time where we're going to be in abundance. So right now, it's still really, really tough to get certain things like getting a house or whatever. I mean, using wood as an example isn't the best, but you could take other stuff, any other raw material or something like that. It's still really tough in some cases because it's technologically demanding to extract and produce all of that. But all of this will be automated through robotics, AI, and many other advancements. You can choose to ignore it, but it's very likely that this will happen in 2021. But the whole thing will be automated through robotics, through AI, and many other things. And you can choose to turn a blind eye to it, but it's very likely that this will happen in 2021. And here I actually heard a very, very interesting take on this from Swishotl, who makes really cool posts in X. He says that every scientific and technological breakthrough in the world is thanks to human intelligence. But human intelligence is a bottleneck. There are only a limited number of geniuses, and they can only work a limited number of hours each day. What happens when we have an intelligence that surpasses humans and works around the clock on our toughest problems? Advances in robotics, energy production, healthcare, and many other areas will accelerate dramatically with the help of artificial intelligence. This is happening whether we like it or not, and no one can predict with certainty what the outcome will be. One thing is clear: today's economic and societal models are under serious threat, along with all the ideas surrounding our fiat money system and the notion that we need to keep pumping more money into the economy just to boost economic productivity. In the end, all of this is at risk. Our way of life, how we interact with each other in society, all of that is going to be massively questioned in the next 5 to 10 years. And he says here, I personally believe that we are heading toward a golden age of abundance. We'll look back at the present in a similar way to how we view the Middle Ages. Back in the day, kings seriously used to crap into a stone pipe on the side of their castle. And that was considered luxury. They can choose what they believe in. And the choice to be optimistic is just a better way to live. And that's the crazy part. We're going to drift into a society of abundance where it will be super easy to maintain a good standard of living, where you might not have to work as much because technological development keeps advancing. What's currently holding us back is basically our fiat money system, our debt-based system, because it's just sucking the technological progress out of the equation. We haven't really reflected technological progress in our fiat money system because, for example, 3% technological progress per year. So prices in the supermarket should actually be 3% cheaper every year because it is easier to grow bananas, easier to grow papayas, easier to grow wood, easier to build houses. But despite this, papayas, bananas, wood, and houses are becoming more and more expensive because we simply have inflation. If inflation is just 10% and technological progress is 2%, that means we still end up with prices that are 8% higher overall. And that's ultimately what the stakeholder is pointing out, that this is going to change massively and that the whole societal model is going to be turned upside down. We might be shifting from an inflationary period into a deflationary one, possibly even with slight inflation in the fiat money system. Because let's say if we have 5% fiat inflation but 10% technological progress, then prices will still end up being cheaper. Now let's assume, for example, Bitcoin, we have no inflation here and now we have 10% economic growth, 10% technological progress, then that means every year the prices get 10% cheaper. Right now, we're assuming that we're experiencing massive price increases as we're in the monetization phase. This means that suddenly your prices won't just drop by 10% in 2021. Instead, they'll drop by 60% to 70% each year because we're seeing around 50% price increases annually, plus another 10% from technological advancements. These are just numbers that I've pulled out of my head, but we really need to realize that this could be coming our way. And some say it'll happen in 5 years, some say 10 years, and some say it'll never happen. I'm pretty sure it might actually come at us faster in 2021 than some of us think. And some say it will come in 5 years, some say it will come in 10 years, some say it will never come. I'm pretty sure it might actually come at us faster in 2021 than some of us think. And then we'll see Bitcoin prices hitting 1 million really quickly, and we'll start questioning traditional concepts like fiat money and things like school, how we set up our healthcare system, and how our societal structure is organized. We'll be looking for alternative solutions to all of that. You also have to look at the whole thing a bit critically because it can be a certain dystopia when, for example, you say, okay, you don't even have to work anymore because everything is automated and there are robots for everything. I mean, these days, there are robots that can put houses together. You don't even need workers on the construction site anymore. They say, okay, you don't even have to work anymore because everything is automated. There are robots for everything. I mean, these days, there are robots that can put houses together. You don't even need workers on the construction site anymore. That means suddenly millions of people are unemployed. But we've also seen time and again in the past that when there are big technological innovations or something like that, new areas emerge. We just take care of it and come up with more creative stuff. For example, what do I know? Then we do E.G, comedy channels or whatever, because something like that is E.G. What AI isn't really good at, like making jokes and stuff, or we'll take better care of our fellow humans, focus more on ourselves, meditate, go into the woods. We might not need to work as much anymore. Because many people say, okay, there won't be any jobs left, but maybe we won't need to work as much. Because first, the fiat money system won't drain as much monetary power, and second, technological progress will be at a level where we're just top-notch, allowing us to raise our standard of living significantly through automation, and lower our cost of living. That means you won't need to work as much, and then it becomes super important when we live in such a society of abundance. What is the one thing that you can't just expand indefinitely? Something that you can't easily reduce with technological progress. Even if we have armies of AI and robotics, even if the whole world is automated and we're seeing 50% technological progress per year, and we're heading into ultramassive adoption, and we're doing nuclear fusion, and building a Dyson sphere around the sun. Of course, that's extremely exaggerated, but just thinking very broadly, what does that really mean for our society? That just means that a lot of things will be way easier to access than we can even imagine right now. I also saw a very, very exciting tweet about this 2001, where Satoshi actually wrote an X. What's the one thing that will hold its value after a massive deflation, like in the job market, the real estate market, the consumer market, and the energy market? If we really experience such a massive technical deflation in various sectors such as these, for instance, one of the plumbers insightfully writes that it might be the case that you can't automate the plumber. But no, the solution isn't about the plumber. In fact, the solution is clearly and undoubtedly Bitcoin. The only thing that can't massively deflate in price in a deflationary world is the price of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is still becoming more desirable. There won't be any more Bitcoin. Even with an army of robots, you can't just surf for more Bitcoin. And that's the crazy part, that people need to realize they should really be getting into Bitcoin before this technological innovation hits. So, this isn't a buying recommendation. When I say get in, I definitely mean to inform yourself. Just think about what's coming our way and how you can prepare for it. And the best preparation is definitely Bitcoin. What we haven't even touched on yet is what will AIs use for money. They certainly won't use fiat money of any kind, but they will use programmable, censorship-resistant, decentralized money. That means at some point it might even be possible for robots to hold property, and they definitely won't be holding any fiat euro shitcoins or anything like that. In any case, if you want to prepare properly, I'll give you a link to Bitcoin below. The easiest way to buy Bitcoin in Europe is very simple and straightforward. With the code Bitcoin Hotel, you can get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. Feel free to let me know down below what you think about this, because it's a really controversial topic, but it's definitely something you need to engage with. Until then, peace out.